as the list of countries and airlines grounding its 737 MAX 8 jet grows. Singapore today becoming the latest country to ban the aircraft from its airspace following the deadly Ethiopian Airlines plane crash over the weekend. Now, in addition to that, several airlines around the globe removing the plane from their flight schedules as well. You can see the list here. But in the United States, the FAA says it has no plans to ground the jet right now. It has ordered Boeing to make urgent improvements to it, however. Boeing confirming it will deploy a software upgrade to the 737 MAX 8. And at least two Democratic lawmakers are calling on Boeing to stop flying the plane altogether until its safety can be ensured. All of this affecting the stock. We told you it fell more than 5% yesterday. Still falling today, down 1 3/4% at 392.99 right here in the pre-market. This is a major market story. Let's bring in Seth Kaplan of Airline Weekly and Ian King of Banyan Hill to discuss. Ian, good morning. I want to start with you. How big of a hit is this second deadly crash in 5 months for Boeing?
So I think as an investor, the first thing you have to think about is whether or not you would actually fly on one of these planes right now. And if your answer is no way, you should entirely avoid the stock for the time being until the investigation is complete.
You know, Seth, we are seeing a lot of passengers at the airport saying, what do I do if this is such a popular plane? I don't want to get on a 737 MAX 8. But is there anything that the airlines can do? And so often we see them swap jets out at the last minute anyway.
They can, yeah. And to be clear, we're talking here about just the MAX, which is the new version of the 737. So, you know, most 737s that you get on the vast majority still today not affected by this. But yeah, you wonder here if ultimately it could be consumer pushback that forces things to change. If you have a lot of people saying, hey, I'm just not comfortable getting on that plane with, at this point, I guess about a third of the fleet grounded around the world anyway. Let's see if that kind of pressure, causes Boeing, the FAA, or these airlines here in North America to change course.
Do you think China has anything to do with any of this, Ian? And I'm asking because they are one of the countries that have grounded all of this particular jet. They're also a major investor in Ethiopian Airlines and the continent of Africa. And we have a trade spat going on with them right now. We want to ban Huawei technologies.
Right. I mean, the 737 MAX 8 is a huge program for Boeing. It represents about a third of their bottom line. They've delivered over 300 airplanes so far. They've got 300,000 orders in backlog. So this is a big program for a huge American company. I don't necessarily agree with the conspiracy theory that China is behind this, but there's been 2 crashes in 6 months, and even in the United States, you're hearing reports of passengers in LaGuardia Airport that were quote-unquote terrified to board these planes yesterday. And I'm reading stories about people who are searching for other means of transportation if they have to take one of these MAX 8. So I think the FAA really needs to take a good look into this. You're seeing other countries such as Mexico that are grounding all their MAX 8s overnight. Same thing with Singapore. You just reported yourself there's over 8 different countries that are now grounding the MAX 8. So I think this issue isn't going away. There was a big drop in the stock yesterday, a little bit of a rebound, but if I looked at the options market, the volatility right now is running at its highs that it has been for the past year, and I think investors are really, really concerned about what the future is for Boeing in the short term, in the medium term.
Seth, what do you make of that, of the FAA saying this plane is still airworthy, and some Democratic lawmakers saying, well, yeah, no, maybe it's not, we should ground them, and passengers being afraid?
Yeah, so on one hand, here you have the FAA saying you got to make urgent changes to Boeing, but on the other hand, sort of, saying, yeah, it's still safe to fly. Obviously, threading a needle there. I mean, I believe that if they are, kind of in a narrow technical sense saying that it's safe to fly, it's because they believe that obviously all kinds of risk associated with something going wrong. This is an aircraft that in many ways was not a radical departure. This was an aircraft Boeing, by the way, didn't really want to build, kind of felt forced to build for defensive reasons because the competition was updating its fleet, and that put pressure on Boeing to kind of get this out into the marketplace. It sold 5,000 of them. Yeah. So obviously the right decision in that regard, but in a lot of ways, not innovative, a similar airframe to the old planes, but this system, indeed, a big step forward, Boeing thought, in terms of addressing things that had caused past crashes. And instead, we don't know, by the way, here still with Ethiopian, with Lion Air, rather clearly this anti-stall system contributed to the crash itself. And based on what the FAA is saying, sounds like there's some suspicion that it caused this one too.
There could be some parallels between these two crashes, and we'll wait for the results of the investigation. Seth Kaplan, Ian King, thank you, gentlemen.